The next one, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road here. This is where things get a fair bit tricky. So we have lots of exponent laws all mixed into one question, but you guys know each of the laws, so it shouldn't be terribly difficult, but it can be. The first thing I want to do here is I see that I have an exponent and another exponent outside the brackets. Now, if I scroll back up to my exponent laws, this is an example of a power of a power. When I have an exponent outside of the bracket, all I do is I just multiply the exponents. Now, don't be intimidated by the question. You guys know how to do these things. Don't worry that this is a fraction and there's square brackets and round brackets and all this. You're just multiplying these together and you're multiplying these together. So I have 3 over 2. I'm going to put the negative to the top. That's just preference. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And then I'm going to multiply this by negative 3 over 2. 2 times 3 is 6. All right, fair enough. Step 1 out of the way. Now, are my bases the same? Do I have negative 3 over 2 and negative 3 over 2? Yes. I'm multiplying with the same base. What do? Well, that's easy. Go to my exponent laws. Multiplying same base. I add my exponents. So let's do that. Let's add our exponents together. So I have negative 3 over 2, negative 8, plus 6. So negative 3 over 2 to the power of negative 2. This is worth writing a little star here. I've said it before, but we should probably write it down. We must get rid of negative exponents. So when we get to the end here, we think we're done, but we're not. We have a negative exponent, so we need to just simplify it one step further. If I have a negative exponent and I want to get rid of it, I'm going to flip it or take the reciprocal. Now, I always write my negative sign on the top. So you can see that I had the 3 negative on the bottom, the 3 negative on the top, and then I flipped it. I just left the negative sign on the top. That's just preference. That's just how I like to do these questions. I always stay consistent. I don't like seeing negative signs on the bottom or the denominator, so I just always leave the top as being negative. It's just kind of how I do it. Stick with what I'm used to, and that's what I'm used to. All right. Next one, we have all the same bases, so we can just do our exponent laws. I have 1.4 to the power of 3. I'm multiplying it by 1.4 to the power of 4. So I'm just going to add my exponents. 1.4 to the power of 7 over 1.4 to the power of negative 2. I guess there's kind of 2 ways I can look at this. I can get rid of my negative exponent, or I can just say, hey, I'm dividing. When I divide, I subtract my exponents. So I have, try to write this a little more horizontally. 1.4 to the power of 7 minus whatever's on the bottom. In this case, it's negative 2. Abby mentions, I got a positive instead of negative in that question because a negative multiplied by a negative equals a positive. Am I doing something wrong for B? So the one I just did. I guess I didn't actually calculate it. So everything inside the brackets gets squared. I'd get negative 2 over 3 times negative 2 over 3, so I get positive 4 over 9. So if you ended up there, that's fine. If you wanted to leave the negative out front and leave it in this form, that's, I guess, what the learning guide is giving us for answers. So yes, the answer is positive because it's squared. I guess I just didn't take it that last step. Hopefully that clarifies that a bit. Even if you just looked at what we started with, you see we have a negative here and a negative here, and we're multiplying, so we should end up with a positive for our answer. Hopefully I'm understanding what you're mentioning correctly. All right, 1.4 to the power of 7 minus negative 2 is the same thing as 7 plus 2 is power of 9. And I could calculate that, 1.4 to the power of 9, but I'm not going to. I'll just leave it like that for now. All right, letter D, same bases. What are we going to do? Well, let's maybe add the bottom. So on the top, I'm just going to leave it as 7 to the power of 2 over 3. On the bottom, I'm going to add these things together. So I get 7 to the power of 1 over 3 plus 5 over 3. This is all the power of 6. So I'm simplifying my brackets first. So I still have 7 to the 2 over 3 on the top. 1 over 3 plus 5 over 3 is 6 over 3. That's all the power of 6. Now, 6 over 3 can be simplified. It's just 2. But I can see that I have this on the top and this on the bottom, and they have the same base. And if I know I'm dividing, I'm going to end up subtracting my exponents. So if I'm subtracting my exponents, I want to have the same fraction because it's just going to make life easier. So I have 7 to the power of 2 over 3 minus 6 over 3. This is all the power of 6. 2 over 3 minus 6 over 3 is negative 4 over 3, the power of 6. Continue this over here. All right, I have an exponent outside my brackets, exponent inside my brackets. What do? Well, I multiply these things. But Mr. Borden, it's a fraction and a whole number. How do I multiply a fraction by a whole number? Well, you've probably done that for the last at least 3 or 4 years of your math lives. Maybe not that long, maybe like 3 years. When we multiply fractions, we're going to go negative 4 over 3 times, and this is just going to be like 6 over 1. Top times top, bottom times bottom. 4 times 6 is 24, 3 and 1 gives me 3. (24) divided by 3 gives me 8, and it's negative. Now, my answer is, I'm almost there, but I have a negative exponent. I can't leave anything with a negative exponent. So instead of 7 to the negative 8, I'm going to take the reciprocal, 1 over 7 to the power of 8. And I'm just going to leave it there. So you can see how some big, ugly mess of a question, we originally started with this horrific nightmare, and it just ends up being 1 over 7 to the power of 8, which is how these questions are kind of designed to work out. Majority of the time, you're going to get nice, happy numbers for answers. The last page here has some additional questions. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll get through as many as I can in the next 10 minutes, but I doubt I'll be able to get through all of them. See how far we can get. Simplify algebraic expressions with integer exponents. So getting back to the idea of these exponent laws, you know how to use them. If they are just basic exponent law questions, you're multiplying, you add the exponents. One step at a time is the key here. So I can only deal with similar bases. If I'm multiplying these things together, I'm going to add my exponents. So I have x to the 3 in the first bracket plus x to the 2. And then I have y to the 2 plus negative 4. Three plus 2 is going to give me 5, and 2 plus negative 4 is going to give me negative 2. Now, I think I've finished this, but I know that I can't have an answer with a negative exponent. So I need to get rid of the negative 2. How do I do that? Well, if I want to get rid of a negative exponent, I need to take the reciprocal of it. I need to move it to the bottom. So I'm going to just put it down there. X to the 5 over 2. So these things are all the exact same, just simplifying. I guess there's a couple different ways we can look at letter B here. Whatever kind of works for you. I have 10 on the top divided by 2 is going to give me 5. And then I have a to the 5 minus 2 and b to the 3 minus negative 2. So a to the 3, 5 for my b. How come anything to the power of 0 equals 1, Alex says? That gets back to the subtraction of exponents. Are you asking about just in general, or are you asking about the, like, y is 0 to the 0 not equal 1, or y is it sometimes equal 1? Remember if I had something like a to the power of 5 divided by a to the power of 5. Well, a to the 5 divided by a to the 5 is just going to give me 1, because it's the same thing over top of itself. Or I could write it like this. A to the power of 5 minus 5 is a to the 0. And I know that if I have an exponent of 0, I have to end up with 1. Because if it's a power of 0, that means I had the same thing on the top and the bottom. I could write this as 2 squared over 2 squared, which is 4 over 4, which is 1. Or I could write it as 2 to the power of 2 minus 2, which equals 2 to the 0, which also equals 1. Just how these things work out. No problem. Simplifying algebraic expressions. So I have all of my laws. Now I have some rational exponents. So I have some fractions as my exponents. Do the laws change now that I'm dealing with fractions? No. Do I love dealing with fractions? No, I don't. But that's just what I'm left with here. So let's look at a couple of these, and then I'll set you guys free. Maybe I'll do the first two. I'll throw down the answers for the last two, and then we'll call her a day. All right, so everything inside of the bracket needs to get the exponent. A basic way to think of this is if I had something like 2x to the power of 2. Well, what does that equal? That's 2 to the power of 2, x to the power of 2. That's all I'm doing, multiplying each thing here. So I have 8 to the power of 1/3. I have 3 times 1 over 3, and b is 6 times 1 over 3. I typically wouldn't actually write this step down. I would actually just do the multiplication So I get 3 over 3, 6 over 3. What do I know about something to the power of 1 over 3? Well, that's the cube root. It's the same thing as taking the cube root of 8. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 8? Turns out that that thing is 2. Let's write it like that. So that's where the 2 is coming from. 8 of the 3 over 3 is just 8 of the 1 and b squared. So I end up with 2ab. B squared. Yes, the 3 over 3 is just a. You can write it just as a if you want, or you can show what I did there. All right, let's do this one and we'll call her quits. I just want to say a few things before we go. All right, same base, add my exponents. 3 over 2 plus 1 over 2, y to the 2 plus negative 1. 3 over 2 plus 1 over 2 is x to the 4 over 2. 2 minus 1 is just 1. 4 over 2, 2, and then y to the 1. Again, the question started really messy and ends really simply. Don't get intimidated by these things. Just, you guys know how to break it down one step at a time. What am I going to do? Am I going to do my addition of exponents? I'm going to do my subtraction, get rid of my negatives. One step. Decide on what you want to do it. Then the next step until you end up with your answer. The last two here, I'll throw down the answers. If you want to try them, you can. This one is 1 over a to the 4, and this one is 2b to the 1/4 over a squared. Again, you probably have a ton of questions you can do already, so doing these extra 2 isn't going to make or break it, but it's kind of all we have time for right now. So believe it or not, for some of you this may be the scariest thing ever because you still haven't finished Unit 1 yet, but that's it for Unit 3. I mean, you guys have a little bit of work to do, but that's it. That's all the ideas that are going to be introduced. You guys have seen everything that's going to happen in this unit. So we kind of had a double block today, so we got through twice as much. I know it's a lot of math. It's a lot to take in. So in the course, where are we? We did lesson 3 today, and there's some hints for a couple of the tricky questions in the lesson. So we'll get the video posted up there. I would strongly recommend, short of insist, because I know a lot of you have a lot of work to get done because very few of you have written the Unit 1 test, which is kind of worrying me a bit. But there's extra practice here for lesson 2. If you go into here, there's extra practice for lesson 3 as well. The applications of exponent stuff that we just did, there's some extra practice there, but I'm not sure it's entirely necessary. There's only a couple questions on the learning guide. There's 3 quizzes. You should have a go at those. And that is it for lesson Unit 3. So there is a lot of stuff for you guys to do in math. I know a lot of you have fallen behind, and I'm doing my best to keep you guys current, but unfortunately there's so much stuff to get through that if you kind of get caught up somewhere along the way, then you're not going to be on par with everyone else. So a couple good questions here. We don't have to do this test until next week. That's why I wanted you to get the Unit 1 test done on the weekend so you wouldn't have to deal with 2 things. I didn't expect to have a double block today, to be honest, so I was thinking that this stuff would probably all be done by, let's see, we're going to have 2 more classes and maybe like a review class sort of thing we've been having. So This stuff would have probably been done by Wednesday. I can do a bit of a review perhaps tomorrow of all the stuff we've done, and then realistically, you should be able to get this test out of the way again by the weekend. Just kind of worked out that Unit 1 and 3 were both really short units, so it seems like a lot. The next unit, Unit 4, it's a long one. So that's kind of it. Once we're done Unit 4, it's officially halfway through the course. So Abby asked, when should we have the review in by? Let's go with like Thursday or Friday. If you've done it, perfect. Submit it today. I would be so happy if you would get that in today. I'm going to leave you with this learning guide. We now officially can do all of the questions in the learning guide. So I did a couple of those. You guys seen some of those. You guys should be, pretty good at some of these things. Applications of exponents is what we went through today. There's a couple of word problems here that get tricky. Not hard, but just tricky. Just substitute the values in essentially and just use your calculator. So maybe I'll write that down here. Use calculator. Especially for number 3. And that's it. So we've done up to page, pretty much up to 8. You just have 9 and 10. So it's really only like 6 questions left for additional work. So again, that's it for Unit 3. For those of you who are behind, which is most of us, you need to get Unit 1 done out of the way, review in, so you can get that test written. The Unit 3 test should be done hopefully by next Monday. So I'm going to say this weekend would be a good time for you guys to do this, or Friday. Yeah, I don't know when we'll see each other again. We'll see what Mrs. Ward wants to do because she gets a double block. Double block sometime this week. So that's kind of where I'm going to leave you. I'd like you guys to try those problems, try the quizzes. I'll go through anything you want next day or maybe the following day, depending on what Mrs. Ward wants. And then we'll take it from there. So Unit 1, 2 should be done. And this unit now is kind of complete. Hopefully we can get this finished off by the weekend. So we'll probably do a couple lessons from Unit 4 at the end of the week, and then that's kind of where we'll be at. So thanks guys. I know that was a lot of math today, and have the video up as soon as we can get it. Come next day with any questions, and have a good afternoon.